Good evening or good day to Bristol and to the Forbidden Worlds Film Festival. I'm very honored to have the Long Kiss Goodnight in your screening series of Killer Queens. Was it last year or 2 years ago when I had Cliffhanger there, and I made this, same kind of a video. That time I think I was shooting it at the studios in Bulgaria. Here I am now in Miami, where I live nowadays, and really excited to tell you a little bit about the making of The Long Kiss Goodnight. Everything started with a script by Shane Black, and at the time when we bought this script, it was the highest priced spec script in Hollywood history. We paid $4 million for this script, and you ask why? Well, everything starts with a script. Without a script, you have nothing, and I've just seen it time after time in Hollywood, how unfortunately so many times movies get made for many reasons, and without a good enough script or script that is ready to shoot. So in this case, there was a bidding war, and New Line Cinema bought the script for me, and it was very exciting to get a Shane Black script after years of classics that he had created, like Lethal Weapon and so many more great movies. And so we embarked on this journey, and the first thing was, of course, casting. A natural fit was Geena Davis, Oscar-winning, athletic, incredibly talented actor to play the lead character. And then it was a matter of finding Mitch Hennessy. And the first thoughts, I think, of the studio were people like Bruce Willis and so on, kind of the usual suspects. And it was at a party, some premiere party in Hollywood, where all of a sudden somebody kind of knocked me on my shoulder, and I turned around, and it was Samuel L. Jackson. And he just launched right into, like, I know you have the script, The Long Kiss Goodnight. Is there any chance I could play Mitch Hennessy? I was like, oh my God, you're Samuel L. Jackson. Like, I think it's fantastic. I would have never thought that you want to play this part, but I think it's a great idea. And I went back to the studio and talked to my friend and the head of the studio, Bob Shea, and Mike DeLuca, and all the people there, and everybody loved the idea. And there we were. And I obviously told Geena about it, and Geena loved the idea. And so now we had two fantastic, solid, awesome actors in the movie. And the rest of the casting was an exciting journey. We wanted to get, really, really good actors for all the parts. I pride myself in finding also new faces for all my movies, starting for, some of you who know my movies, my first American movie, Prison. I discovered Viggo Mortensen for it. It was his first leading role in a movie. And many more followed. But in this case, I would say that one of I think great finds for the movie was Craig Bierko, who played Timothy, the sort of the evil bad guy. Casting him was great, and so many other amazing actors that we were able to get for the movie. And we put the cast together, decided where we'll shoot this movie, and we decided that we'll shoot it in Canada, in Toronto, because we needed snow, we needed winter. We needed to make sure that it was going to be cold and snowy for this story. And having had my experiences on Die Hard 2, where we couldn't find snow anywhere, I wanted to make sure that we had that, and we had plenty. It turned out to be the coldest winter in 60 years in Canada. And there were days when it was so cold that I started wondering, like, why are the actors speaking so weirdly? And I would say to, like, Geena, like, why did you say that line that way? And she would be like, because my jaw doesn't move. and it was literally so cold that we had to stop shooting for a while and warm up the actors, and also like the film in the film cameras would freeze and break. This was still the time when we were using film instead of shooting digital like we do everything nowadays. So it was incredible. There was plenty of snow and plenty of cold, and it just reminds me of one sequence. There's a sequence in the movie where Sam and Geena jump out the window of the bus station and fall 2 stories into a frozen lake, and Geena shoots with the machine gun, shoots the ice and breaks it, and then they break through the ice and go underwater and survive the fall. And totally realistic. And to accomplish this, we did pretty much everything just as scripted. They jumped through the window and they fell on descender rigs for real, as you can see in the movie, and then they fell into a frozen lake, and we shot it in a frozen lake. And first of all, the weather was so cold, and the lake was frozen, and the water was even colder. And I remember when I asked the actors, like, how did it? Oh, sorry, that was my hand. I asked the actors, like, how did it feel to go underwater? And Sam characterized it as the worst ice cream headache you could ever have. But the actors were so game. We had such a good time in Toronto shooting this movie, and just formed such a friendship. Like Sam became a lifelong friend for me, and to this day we've made 2 movies after that together, and plan to make many more. And it was an incredible adventure. And the actors prepared for the movie really well, especially of course Geena, who had to accomplish all these incredible physical feats and be this kind of a super action woman, which was, you have to understand that this is still early 90s. It was a new thing in movies that you could have a female action hero. Some say that we were ahead of our times. Who knows? But and here's my daughter, who has come here to see Daddy record this thing. So all the background action here is provided by my daughter, Coco. It was really incredible to see the actors, doing their stunts and doing everything. I'm dealing with my daughter here. She's 22 months old, but she's awesome. And you can really see in the fight scenes and the action scenes, Geena of course had a stunt double for safety, but she did everything herself. She trained several months, tactical fighting, and how an operative like her character would really do this stuff. And it wasn't like movie make believe, but we just wanted it to really feel real and be the way it would be in real life with somebody with this kind of training, like she was supposed to be. And shooting those fight scenes and chases, and also she had to learn figure skating. She had never done figure skating in her life. She learned it from zero, and learned to be quite a figure skater. So I have incredible respect for them. And what about her knife use? I mean, chefs do that, right? The way she was chopping vegetables and threw the knife into the wall, piercing the tomato, all that stuff. Like, it was fun to do when you have actors who are so committed that they will make it happen and make it real. And also, let's remember that this was before the CG technology took over movies. So we didn't have digi-doubles, and we didn't have, all the stuff that exists today in today's action cinema. But it was pretty much like, do it for real, do it with the actors, do it with the stunt people, and try to make it as safe as possible and as spectacular as possible. And talking about spectacular, I one of my kind of favorite scenes, of course, is in the toward the end of the movie, the chase with the truck and crashing through the walls, and then ending up on this bridge by Niagara Falls, which of course, you know, the geography is kind of fictional, but the locations are kind of real, and that was a real bridge where we shot, but the explosion of the bridge, of course, couldn't have been done on a real bridge, so we built a model, but this was no, you know, little model, you know, like something like this. This bridge that we built was pretty much, I think, 100 meters long. So what is that in feet? 300 feet long, real bridge with all these miniature cars and every detail. And then we had 16 cameras rolling on it, and we blew it up. And the first explosion, you know, these were the golden times of Hollywood, where you could still say like, I didn't quite like that, let's do it again. Today, you know, with all the very realistic cost cutting, you couldn't do that. You just have to go with it. But I didn't like the first explosion. Everything didn't work out exactly the way I wanted. So they rebuilt the bridge, another 100-meter long bridge model, miniature, and with the cars and all the details. And we blew that up with 16 cameras, and then got what I thought we should have, and got that sequence done. But it was fun. It's, you know, like I think of other movies like you know, movies that I've done, like Cliffhanger and Die Hard 2, for example. It's the same thing. Die Hard 2, we had these huge miniature planes, and in Cliffhanger some huge miniature planes and helicopters that we used to create the illusion, instead of doing everything with CG. And I ask you, the audience, now, I'm gonna, after I ask this question, I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3 now, and on now you can yell yes if you agree with me. Do you agree that the downside of the digital revolution and all the CG stuff is that sometimes these things go so far that things don't feel real anymore, and they are not relatable, and objects and people and cars and planes and things lose their mass, they lose their weight, and as a result things just don't feel real. You can't quite put your finger on it, but when you're watching it, it just doesn't look right. And that's the difference between when we used to do it for real and doing it now in a computer. If you agree with me that sometimes a realism would be a nice touch, on my count, say yes. 1, 2, 3, go. I guess I made my point. Thank you. But I'm not putting down the modern technology. Of course, it helps us in many ways. But it's just sometimes I get this longing for you know, the good old days when you could really feel it more in a more realistic way, and really root for the characters, because they couldn't fly and they couldn't jump from building to building, and they were not just superheroes, but they were real flesh and blood, and they got hurt, and they felt the kind of feelings that we all do. And the other aspect of the movie that I think was so important was the humor, and I just loved working with Geena and Sam and everybody else. You know, figuring out how we do all the scenes and how we get. Obviously, you know, it's not a comedy, but it's an action movie with some levity. And so we had such a good time figuring out how to, you know, where to go with the humor and the characters and the dialogue and the reactions, and how big to go. And it's always that balance. You know, you don't want to go slapstick and you don't want to go silly, but you want to, you know, you just want to make the characters cool, and you want to just give the audience a good time. Because I firmly believe that no matter what movie you make, you know, a drama, thriller, love story, comedy, horror film, whatever it is, I believe that levity is a great thing. and it pays dividends. I feel like the audience really appreciates it when you give them a chance, in the middle of all the tension and all the action and all the drama and all the violence, you give them a chance to laugh and to breathe. And of course, we have plenty of those moments, and they are provided by all the characters. And oh my God! And then, obviously, in terms of casting, we have to talk about our amazing young star. She was 5 or 6 years old when we did this movie, and playing Geena's daughter, and it was just stunning what she did, and how she understood the character, and how she portrayed it, and how she got through all these scary scenes, and I don't know if it's to my credit or just how life was meant to be for her, but not only she did, but her sister also became an actor, and they made their whole life and career and future in acting, and very successfully. And these were the Zima daughters, sisters, and it was just amazing to work with a 6-year-old who would really get it. And I always remember one night when we were shooting a scene on the bridge in the end, and it's the scene where Geena's character, Charlie Baltimore, is severely injured and bleeding and dying and just falls flat on the ground, and she's lying there, and she comes in and she's like, "Mommy, you can't die, life is hard, stop behaving like a little baby," which is repeating what her mom said earlier to her. And she's just pounding her and making her get up, and just giving her the willpower to live and continue. And then she does, and she starts getting up from the ground. And we're shooting this scene. I have probably 8 cameras rolling, and she's trying to get off the ground, and I'm like, okay, that's really convincing. That's really like she's making it look like a struggle. But then it just continues and continues and continues. She just won't get off the ground. I'm like, Geena, just, it's okay. It's like, that's great, but like, go ahead, stand up. And then Geena is like, I can't. I'm like, what do you mean you can't? It's like, I'm frozen. And she had so much blood on her costume, and it was so cold. It was like, in Celsius, it was like minus 38. And she had, in the time when we, set up and got the cameras ready and rolled and everything, her blood of her costume had frozen to the ground. And so she was literally frozen there, and she had no strength to rip her off the ground. We had to, bring in like 4 grips to like literally like. Have you ever had like something in your freezer that is just like frozen there and you can't get it out? That's how it was. She was like this, like a frozen popsicle that we had to like rip off the ground. That's how cold it was there. I always remember it. I always remember also when I was shooting in that same location, and somewhere Geena read a recipe of Elvis's favorite food. She read somewhere that Elvis used to take Big Macs and then batter them, like eggs and breadcrumbs and whatever you use to batter things, fish and chips. And he would batter them and then deep fry them in oil and then eat them. I mean, to my best knowledge, doesn't like one Big Mac already have like about 980 calories? Imagine when you batter it and deep fry it. It's like, does it go up to like 9,000 calories? I don't know. But that's what Elvis used to do. So Geena wanted to try that. So I remember when we were in that particular location on the bridge in those freezing nights. So she would amuse herself and the cast and crew by having this deep fryer brought into her trailer, and then she would make these Elvis burgers. We would send an assistant to get like 50 Big Macs, and then she would deep fry them and serve them to the cast and crew. And they were pretty tasty on those cold nights. I don't know about the calorie amount, but maybe you burn a lot of calories when you're out there in the wilderness and in the very cold weather. But I think they have to like refurbish her trailer later on because it smelled like a very greasy spoon that has been in business for like 30 years. But when you have like a little trailer and you do it there, it's like it intensifies the Elvis deep frying effect. Oh my goodness, what goodness. What else can I tell you about the Long Kiss Goodnight? You're probably like all there looking at your watches. It's like, is this movie ever going to start, or is this just going to be the movie about Renny? I'm sorry. They told me that there's no length limit to this thing. They should have learned last time when I was talking about Cliffhanger. But anyhow, to really try to bring it all to some kind of a final statement, it might be Brian Cox. How many people had heard about Brian Cox before The Long Kiss Goodnight? He had done movies. He had an incredible career. There's, no question about it. But he wasn't a Hollywood stay. So Brian, I'm sorry, I'm not taking credit for your career or anything. I was blessed and lucky to meet you and cast you as Geena's character's mentor in the movie. But I feel like we kind of really introduced Brian Cox to the mainstream audience, and rest is history. You've seen Succession, you've seen a lot of things. He's been in everything. He's an incredibly talented actor and great human being, and we had such a great time. I mean, those scenes where he's sitting with his wife and talking about something dislodged in his dog's bottom. Yep, that's Brian Cox. So all around, the cast was just phenomenal. We had so much fun doing this movie. All those scenes in the snow. I kind of feel like I'm a snow expert, which I think is because I'm from Finland and I've spent 9 months of the year pretty much in dark, cold, wet, snowy Arctic terror of my life. So it comes naturally for me. So ironically, my biggest success has come with movies like Die Hard 2, all snow, Cliffhanger, all snow, Long Kiss Goodnight, all snow. So somebody could say, like, stick to that. But I also remember working on those movies, people said, like, we love working with you, but could you pick like a tropical location next time? So I've tried to do that too. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for appreciating this movie. And what would a speech be about, without plugging my next movie, which is probably, by the time you see this, already out in the theaters, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know when it's coming out in England, but hopefully right now. I've made 3 movies called The Strangers, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3. And they are, of course, based on the cult classic from 2008, The Strangers. But this is not a remake. This is not a reboot. This is not a sequel or prequel. This is a reimagining of the Strangers universe into a 4.5-hour movie that goes very deep into examining the things that make the Strangers tick and to examine what happens to the victims of this kind of senseless violence. So if you know The Strangers, my movie is not a copy, not a sequel. It's the first movie is like a starting point. And of course, because the movie is called The Strangers, we are starting with a young couple in a house with a home invasion by 3 strangers. But then we go in whole new directions. And especially in the movie Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, you'll be surprised where we're going to take you. We're not going to answer every question. We're not going to tie a neat bow on it, but we're going to give you something very different and very interesting. I'm a huge fan of the original film, so for me it was an honor to do that movie, to do these 3 movies, and I took it very seriously. and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you go and see them and you enjoy them. Now, everybody at the Forbidden Worlds Movie Film Festival, thank you for giving me this honor and opportunity to have my movie, The Long Kiss Goodnight, have another chance in life with you. Enjoy it, laugh, be excited, have fun, and remember, movies are really meant to be seen in the movie theater. Don't you agree? 1, 2, 3. Don't you agree? That's right. That's where the silver screen meets the audience and the communal experience. There's nothing like it. I hope you have a fantastic time. I thank you, the organizers of this incredible festival, for doing this and doing this whole Killer Queens theme, and honored to be there with my fellow filmmakers that I respect immensely, and hope to be back with many more movies. Love you. Bye.